Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fully Charged Plus podcast. Today's guest, Nico Rosberg, has been on Fully Charged before. He drove Johnny Smith around a racing track at Silverstone in a plug-in hybrid Porsche at speeds that were just terrifying. I was there and watched it. I was very glad I wasn't in the car. He's an extraordinary man, I think it's fair to say, because, if you have no interest in Formula One or sport in general, I think what Nico Rosberg has done with his life since he became world champion, which I'll explain in a minute, is really remarkable. So he was a Formula One racing driver for a long time. He did very similar to Lewis Hamilton. Started out in go-karts, then went on to smaller cars when he was a young man, and then eventually into Formula One, where he did incredibly well. So he took part in 206 Grand Prix races, and he won 30. Which, the competition in that tiny, incredibly competitive world is mind-boggling. If you haven't ever seen Drive to Survive, it's on Netflix. My wife got obsessed with it. She has less interest in motorsport than anyone else on the planet. She's not bothered at all, and she got completely obsessed with that documentary series. Amazing access that Netflix got into that world. That's what he does. Anyway, so 5 days after becoming world champion, Formula One world champion in 2016, Nico Rosberg retired. And which is unusual, because normally people then try and get world champion again, like Lewis Hamilton has done many times. And then since then, it's been a really interesting turnaround, because what do you think of when you think of a Formula One driver? Glamorous, wealthy, beautiful, handsome, live this gorgeous lifestyle, all those things Nico Rosberg does. But you also think petrol head. You're going to have really powerful petrol sports cars and that. No, not Mr. Rosberg. His interest in alternative technologies, in sustainable technology, in electric vehicles, goes beyond mere fashion fad and trendiness. He's really interested in. He invests in different companies around the world. So we used a short part of this interview for an episode of Fully Charged about Xtreme E, the new sport that's really just been launched this year. But I thought it's worth putting this together. So that we went off topic a bit. We started out on Xtreme E and Formula E, but we kind of wandered off because he's doing so many amazing things, and he's driven loads of different cars. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's very successful, and he's a really nice bloke. So there you go. So please welcome onto the Fully Charged Plus podcast, Mr. Nico Rosberg. My Energy is putting the I back into British innovation. My Energy is putting the I back into inventing the future. My Energy is putting the I back into inspiring a nation. Recharging the world with green, smart energy. Charge your EV with your PV and more. Visit myenergy.com and help to spark the green revolution. My Energy. Driving the charge to a greener future. So, Nico, just right at the top, I just want to congratulate you, because your team not only won the entire race in Senegal last weekend, but you also beat Lewis Hamilton. I'm just saying that as a thing. It's no big deal, but you did beat Lewis Hamilton's team.
Yeah, so it's been a really, really exciting and successful second race weekend in Xtreme E for myself and my team. And we won the race again. So we're leading the championship now, 2 wins in a row for the first 2 races. Of course, fighting other teams like Lewis Hamilton's team, Jenson Button's team, all the legendary American racing families are in there with teams. So it's a really illustrious grid. And I'm really proud of our performance.
That is amazing. And I think it must be the most bizarre racing that you've done, because your entire career and all the other people involved in it will have been used to going to big motor racing circuits with tens of thousands of people watching from stands and all that stuff, and you are basically on the coast of a desert in the middle of nowhere. Were there any live audiences at the actual event, or was it pretty much just the teams and the cars?
Oh, there's always a handful of audience there, like specifically actually like VIP and partners and things from all the teams that do some client entertainment and all these things. So there's like a little VIP lounge on the beach, which is very nice. But to be honest, yes, it's totally different from anything I've ever experienced. But at the same time, somehow so very similar as well, because the competition is so fierce, and it's still on a single lap basis, the races. So it's still all about trying to improve your performance around a relatively short lap by working on data and video analysis and everything. So somehow there's a lot of similarities as well. And
Right.
it's a great experience. And but maybe for the audience, we should quickly explain what Xtreme E is, don't you think, Robert?
I think this is very, very important. I just wanted to get the fact that you're winning. I was very thrilled. I thought I'm so glad that you won last weekend rather than came last. Then this interview had been much more awkward. But yeah, we absolutely should, because it's not just about racing. I mean, that's the critical thing in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, so Xtreme E is the new baby from the Formula E founder, Alejandro Agag. It's the new championship that he's created. And here it's about electric SUVs, and it's about racing in like extreme environments around the world. And in those environments where climate change has already caused the most damage and is the biggest threat so far. And it's really about raising awareness for what's happening out there, but also for inspiring action. And so we're racing in Senegal, where there's a lot of drought, big threat for drought. Then we're racing in Greenland, where we want to highlight how the glaciers have been retreating over the last 20 to 30, 50 years. Then in the Amazon rainforest, in deforestation, really highlighting all these extreme situations that our planet is facing. And that's what it's about. And it's absolutely fierce racing at the same time and highly competitive. So it's a great combination.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things I think really critical things that I loved about it was the fact that the entire race series, the logistics of the race series are very transparent. So, how do you, like with Formula One, I just hear, oh, the cars are in Monaco or Brazil or wherever. We don't know how they got there. I know now, I mean, they're flown there in cargo planes and all the rest of it. But whereas with Xtreme E, that the ship is extraordinary. I think that the fact that you've got a ship that carries all the cars to the locations, and it's however you measure carbon footprints, a ship traveling there is hugely more carbon efficient than an airplane. So it's a really important aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The series wants to be is carbon neutral, but of course, some of that has to be done via offsetting. So, in first instance, we want to make sure that the emissions that are produced are at the minimum possible, and therefore, the whole logistics emissions were reduced by 2/3 by buying a ship, which is the floating paddock. So all the cars get sent around the world, and all our equipment as well gets sent around the world on this ship, which is called the St. Helena, and it's very cool. I mean, it's a proper big cruise ship, which is exactly the same kind of ship that the Greenpeace use, and it's therefore one of the most sustainable options there is out there. Even though sustainable is not the right word, because of course, unfortunately, there are still emissions, but it reduces the logistics emissions by 2/3, which is massive. And it's a nice story as well, how everybody is traveling on the ship and the cars are traveling on the ship from location to location. So it's great. And of course, the next iteration is going to be making the ship electric or hydrogen powered or whatnot as soon as possible in the next coming years.
Well, I mean, that is, I think, the really fantastic thing that is happening with, well, both Formula E and now this, in that sense, is that it absolutely pushes the technology. Because if there's one thing that you could do, for instance, in the future when you're in Senegal or Saudi Arabia, you're in a remote location, is you can use local energy sources to power the cars, if nothing else. I mean, you could have a lot of solar panels in Senegal and you could charge all the cars from it. I mean, that sort of stuff is, it's a natural step that I'm sure is being discussed.
Robert, we're one step ahead of you already.
Ah.
The cars are powered by green hydrogen that is produced locally. And it's a UK company. It's called AFC Energy, which is one of the leading fuel cell makers in the world. And so what they've done, it's a partnership with Xtreme E. They have provided Xtreme E with, first of all, solar panels that get brought around on the ship, and they get brought to the location of the race about 10 days before the race. And those solar panels produce energy for electrolysis and to then on site produce green hydrogen in the lead up to the actual race. Okay, and this green hydrogen then produces electricity, of course, with the fuel cell, which is where AFC Energy are best at. And then there's a battery to just remove the spikes in the demand. And then all the race cars get powered by this green hydrogen electricity for the entire race weekend. So it's 100% emission free locally. So how cool is that, Robert? That's pretty damn cool, isn't it?
That is, I mean, if you think of what we have done up to now, which, you know, say you were racing combustion engine cars in the same area, you'd be shipping in tanks of diesel or petrol, and you're actually producing the fuel on site. No, it's fantastic that you're doing that. I hadn't realized the full extent of where it was going. I mean, I knew that was sort of the aim. So, I mean, in a sense, then, even if you couldn't do that with sunshine in Greenland, for instance, you could do it with wind very easily. I'm sure it's quite windy in Greenland.
Yeah, although we haven't brought any wind turbines, so I think we might hit some trouble in that case. So let's hope for some sunshine. Hope for some sunshine. But that would be the next step, to have wind turbines as an alternative. But we need to invite you to a race. I
really want to come.
Who else will come? You're the man for coming to our race. Come on.
No, I am very excited about coming to one of them. I mean, I would love to go to Greenland.
Yeah, well, look at Greenland. Come on, that would be great.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah.
We need to get in the car as well then.
I would love to have a go in the car now, much more than a track car, because I've driven around tracks, and I'm so embarrassed to even say that to you, because I've driven around tracks very slowly, Nico. But I would love to. I have driven off road far more, and I feel a little bit of knowledge and skill in that area where I've slid around in muddy places, or, you know, I used to have a Land Rover Defender and all that stuff, so I'm more used to that. I would love to have a go in one. No, it would be really exciting. Yeah.
That's cool. Let's get into it.
I will work on it, but it's such brilliant news. So, when is the next race then after this? Is Greenland the next one on the list?
So there's 5 races in the year, and we've done 2 now, and the next one is Greenland, and then comes the Amazon rainforest race, and the last one then in December is Tierra del Fuego in the south of Patagonia, again glacier related, and and Greenland is in August, so middle of August.
Right. Okay. We're having a meeting about it very soon. I'm very excited about that. Yeah, but that's fantastic to catch up with that. And I really think it's brilliant that all the people that have committed to this, including yourself, to this race season are, you know, it's such an important topic, and I really hope it gets a lot more coverage and publicity. I mean, it is such a genius idea. And a very natural next step. I mean, I have spoken to Alessandro a couple of times, and I think it's fair to say now he's a bit of a dude. And I love it. You go and see someone saying, we're going to do this, and you go, that is crazy. That's never going to work. And then it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a visionary, and of course, a great ambassador for the electrification that we need to accelerate in mobility. Because sports, of course, has such a power to really encourage people and to raise awareness. So it's fantastic what he's doing, and that's why I'm glad to be a part of it as well. And I happened to see Lewis Hamilton yesterday. We had a short conversation, and he was also saying, on Sunday I was in front of the TV. I was shouting and screaming to cheer on my team. Because it's really the two of us who are fighting for all the race wins with our teams at the moment. We're dominating the category together, and so it's really cool to see how invested he is as well in this championship. Because of course for him sustainability is a big topic, and as you know, it's not only about the environment; it's also about equality. So each car and each team has 2 drivers, and they share the racing duties. So there's a male and a female. And so this weekend, in the first race, it was our male driver, Johan Kristoffersen, who really nailed the win for us. And this weekend, it was Molly Taylor, our female driver, who nailed the win for us, because she got the job done on the start and turn 1 to take the win for us. So it really is it's cool to see how empowering it is for women, really, in our sport.
Now that is critically important. I'm really glad you're doing a much better interview than I am, because you're remembering all these really critically. I mean, that is, absolutely game changing. The fact that the entire driver lineup is 50% men, 50% women. Has that ever happened in any motorsport before? I think not.
Don't think so. No, I don't think so. And it's a big problem in motorsports, but also in other areas of business as well, or in the world. that women
Yeah.
just don't have the same opportunity as
Yeah.
men, and that's really what we want to change as well as a platform, and show how it can be done and how important
Yeah.
it is to get it right. And it's working out really well, because it's really really enjoyable to watch. Robert, can I ask you,
Yes.
what is the coolest thing you've seen, electrified thing you've seen in recent months?
Well, God, it's difficult. I mean, I would say, in terms of cars, the Mercedes EQS, the interior of the Mercedes EQS was off the scale that I am familiar with. I went, oh, this is, it's when you get people's opinions about the interiors of a car, and I go, yeah, but it's sort of much the same. They're all much the same. You got steering wheel, you got that. This was amazing. The technological steps they've made, not only the interior, just the quality of the interior is ridiculous, but the energy efficiency of that car is very noticeable. It's the first electric car I've driven, which I think realistically this car could drive for 400 miles. You might have to be a bit careful on one charge, but it would do it.
How
Whereas
many kilowatt hours? How many kilowatt hours is the battery capacity?
it's 110. I think it's 110.
110.
I'm
Okay.
doing that off memory. It's more than 100. I know that, but it's really noticeable the how many miles it does to the kilowatt hour. That or kilometers to the kilowatt hour is impressive. I mean,
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm driving it on my YouTube channel as well in a couple of weeks. So I'm
good.
excited they're going to bring it down to Monaco for me,
Yeah.
which is going to be great. Because at the moment I'm driving, I'm not going to say which company, but at the moment I'm driving an electric car here in Monaco which is one of the first. It's the first like German electric car that they brought out, and it sucks in terms of range. Oh my goodness, it's painful. Like, I mean,
Yes.
fully charged, it says 300 kilometers, but then you actually get going and the thing drops like 10 kilometers at a time.
Yeah.
It's like, it's horrible. So you can get probably only 230, 240 kilometers out of it.
Yeah.
So this is great
yeah.
progress then, if you're saying that you can do such
Well,
things.
I mean, I'm hoping so, because now I'll watch the episode you God, the range isn't very good. So I drove it for 2 hours, so it's very hard to really tell. But it just felt like I was just watching the battery percentage go down, and it really was impressive. It didn't drop a lot. We always filmed charging it. By the time we got to the charger, it still had 95% of the battery. And I've driven for a long time, not very far or fast because I was in a city, but drove it for a long time. Anyway, that was very, very impressive. But you're absolutely right that I just think it's counterproductive for car companies to set the algorithm of their mileage or their potential range so badly, because that's what sticks with you. You get in the car and it goes, oh, 300k, that's fantastic. You drive it 10 kilometers and it says 110k, and you're going to go, that is terrible. It's so damaging, it's stupid.
So, and what happened to me then? So I took my car for the first road trip with the family, because usually we're just driving around Monaco. And so I went to some village in the south of France on the coast, which is a very popular tourist destination. So I get there and I'm like, no problem. I'll just, there's some electric charging stations. So I park up and I put the cable in. And then, of course, to my shock, you need like these charging cards, which of course I didn't know. I thought I could pay with a credit card or my phone app or whatever. So charging cards, and I'm like, okay, great. Well, where do I get a charging card? At the next newspaper shop? No, they have to send, and it takes 5 weeks to get it. So you can imagine I was very, very stuck. So I had to, my wife and kids, they ended up going to the beach, and I spent 2 hours looking for some kind of location where I could charge. So I ended up finding a hotel, and there was just one. So after 2 hours, I ended up finding a hotel in the garage. I paid them cash to be able to access their actual charger, to give me, in the space of another 1.5 hours, I got 30 kilometers more on the clock, and I got home with 15 kilometers left. So I would not have managed to get home without that extra booster charge. But that was a bit horrible. But okay, it's just about being a little bit prepared. But still, being unprepared, that was not.
But it's still, I mean, that highlights all the problems, because I don't think there's the ranges of cars in the last 10 years have increased. There's no question of it, and the price relative to that has come down. And there's more chargers, but what is frustrating now is, can I use the chargers? One, will it work? And two, can I use it? And that's the stupidity of the fact that you went to a charger where their business is to sell you electricity,
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
and you can't buy it.
That's crazy.
I mean,
No, but
it's
seriously,
the
how
most
crazy
stupid
is
thing.
that? With
Yeah.
all the apps that we have available now to pay for things, or credit card or whatever, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one good thing I can say about this country, and there's not many good things I can say about this country. One of the good ones is that there are now all the rapid chargers that are now being installed. So all the new chargers that you would stop on a highway or freeway or whatever,
Yeah.
are you tap your card on it. You just tap a debit card or a credit card on it, and it's straight away. And they have to do that. And it's so much easier to use. And of course, more people are using it because it's easy to use, And it might cost a bit more, but you don't use that stuff, from driving electric. You don't use rapid chargers every day. You use them when you're doing a trip like that, when you need it. Yeah.
The next day, I went back again with my family to that same spot, and I had to borrow my dad's Jeep Tomahawk. You know what that is?
Yeah.
It's the fastest Jeep that's ever been built. So it has 800 horsepower. It's some ridiculous machine.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the next day I had to use that one for the family.
Yeah.
It was not ideal.
Well, I mean, the idea of going to spend a day with your family, in a holiday location or on the beach, and all you do is look for somewhere to charge the car, kind of takes the edge off the pleasure of the trip.
Nevertheless, I remain a huge fan of electrification, and it is the way to go. It's just a matter of getting these teething issues right.
Yeah.
And also, if you do own an electric car, to spend a little bit of time in preparing and understanding things before you get going. Because I just went, just let's go for it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, which is, I think, very reasonable. I've done exactly the same. Yeah, no, I do understand. No, it was great. No, and I think it's so important that someone with your profile is very supportive of it. And, it is painful. And I've always said, the two things I've always said is electric cars aren't green, because they're still cars. They're made in big factories out of materials you dig out of the ground. But they are potentially sustainable technology, or a more sustainable technology than combustion engines. And that's
they are the gateway. They are the gateway to a more sustainable mobility.
Exactly. Yeah.
Robert, do you know what I'm getting at the end of the year?
Say again?
What's receiving at the end of the year?
No, what's happening? Sorry, tell me.
The Rimac Nevera.
Oh. Oh my God. That is terrifying for me. A car that is that fast. It's just so scary. Can you
2,000 brake horsepower.
2,000. Is it possible to drive slowly?
0 to 60 miles an hour in 1.95 seconds.
That's insane, isn't it? Because in comparison with that, I do not know what a Formula One car, when you're on the grid and you start
2.5.
Wow! So it is that much faster than
because the F1 car doesn't have the instant four-wheel drive, so so that's why it's not possible to be. You need the four-wheel drive.
Yeah, 2.5 is still pretty quick, but 1.9 is just.
Yeah, but the Tesla S. For those of you who've driven the Tesla S in ludicrous mode, it does 2.9 seconds, and it feels like a rocket ship. Like you are shocked when you accelerate in a Tesla S. And this Rimac does 1.9. It's going to be, I don't know, it's going to knock our stomach out the back, I think. I don't know. So, the action on my YouTube channel. And Robert, I'll invite you maybe one day, then when I receive it, we can go for a drive together.
I would love it if you were driving, but you've just got to accept, I might wear a muffle because I will be screaming.
Yeah, I'm very sorry also. I don't go lightly on my passengers.
Yes, I've witnessed it around the track in Silverstone.
Driving the 918 Porsche around this little Silverstone track. That was cool. The hybrid Porsche.
Yeah, that was great. That was a really interesting thing for me. I always remember one moment where there was another driver, and I'm afraid I can't remember who it was, who was taking it around the same circuit. And as he went past me, his brake lights were on really hard as he slowed down to go around quite a tight series of bends. And then when you went past me, no brake lights until you were from where I was standing at the bend. Then there was a flash of brake lights. And I went, that is, and you went so much faster. It was just terrifying. And that really, because people thought we had speeded up the camera where we saw your hands on the steering wheel. They thought we'd cheated and speeded up. We hadn't. That was, it was just how fast. And your reaction times then, are really what sets, you can then tell what sets people apart that do the job you've done,
Yeah, of
is
course. I mean,
extraordinary.
that's our skill as F1 drivers.
Yeah,
That's our skill. It's the speed of processing in the brain and
yeah,
the speed of reacting to input that's coming. That is
yeah.
that's probably one of our greatest skills and what sets us apart. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is an extraordinary skill. No, I have managed to skid a Prius off the track at Silverstone. That's how slow a Prius. So you can imagine my top speed was not high. But that was where I filmed driving around Silverstone in a Prius, and the security crew that watch and make sure, the guys in the tower with all the screens. When we went up to see them, they were just on their knees laughing. They'd never seen anything so funny. Like a Prius at 70 miles an hour skidding off on a not a very tight bend at Silverstone.
Well, maybe it's because you tried to take it flat.
However I'd taken it, it would be completely wrong. Yes, no question. I think a Prius's road holding it was not what it was built for high speed road holding. That's not its job. I think we can say that. But yeah, no, I would love to do that. Eventually we will be allowed to come down to Monaco and see you, and because there's other things we really want to see there. There's an amazing solar yacht that is generally moored in Morocco. We've been in touch with the people who run that big solar powered yacht, which would be fantastic to see as well. So there's other things we're trying to come down and see that.
So do you know what I'm just looking into now? Because I have a partnership with Sunreef Yachts, and they're actually one of the leading catamaran manufacturers, luxury catamaran manufacturers, and they are leading the way with eco yachting as well. So they just brought out in the last 2 years, they brought out yachts where they have the whole surfaces everywhere layered up with solar cells, which are very thin and flexible. So every surface, the whole hull on the outside, the roofs, everything, and then it's all batteries. So the whole bottom is filled up with batteries. And this is what I'm looking at actually to get for my family now for next year.
Amazing!
And it's looking very, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes so much sense because there has been one solar-powered ship that went around the world in a way like the solar plane that went around the world. I mean, it's that technology is developing very fast. I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful if it may be 2 or 3 years' time, but that you could have a ship that sails around the world for Xtreme E that is actually solar-powered? I mean, it's probably on the edge of possible.
I don't think that's realistic, Robert, for any time soon.
Yeah.
The efficiency of the solar cells is just too far off. So that won't.
And the scale of batteries you'd need is it would be
that doesn't
really big.
That doesn't work, unfortunately, yet.
No, but hydrogen fuel cells and hydrogen, it's not impossible. Yeah,
hydrogen is the solution for shipping, for long distance shipping. Hydrogen is the solution, certainly. And there's things coming out now. Maersk just announced 2023 their first hydrogen ship.
Fantastic!
So it's coming very, very soon and quickly. Yeah. So that's the problem, though. Is it's okay? Great, they're announcing their hydrogen ship, fantastic. But the problem is to get green hydrogen there. That's the big problem, and I don't know if they have that sorted out yet. Because of course, it is making a hydrogen ship if the production of hydrogen itself causes huge emissions.
Yeah, because that is the sad fact at the moment. 95% of global commercial hydrogen is from natural gas.
Exactly. But that's pointless, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an awkward. That's a bit awkward, that one.
Yeah. So, but Robert, you know that I'm also a startup investor, and I've invested in flying taxis. So I've got investments in the 2 top flying taxis out of Germany. So Lilium and Volocopter, of course, also fully electric, and Volocopter actually is the first one that's going to come to market, and it's only 2 years away now. So it's 2023. Wow. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be absolutely revolutionary. And also once the pilot comes out of the cockpit and once it flies autonomous, it will really be much more affordable, and it will kind of democratize flying taxis. And if you look at an example now from New York to JFK, which in a normal taxi costs $70, it's going to cost the same in the flying taxi. It's going to be costing $70, and it's only going to be a 5 to 10 minute flight. Yeah. So that's really going to revolutionize, I think, mobility as we know it.
Yeah, that stuff is
about that. transition as well. Have you ever seen one yet? Have you visited a
Yeah,
company yet?
and not in real life. I've seen lots of footage of them, and we've got there's our guy Elliot who's in Shanghai. He's in touch with a company there that are already running. They're single seater, similar thing, vertical takeoff, single seater thing, which I think is not running at the moment. But we're trying to film that, but I'd love to see one in real life. Yeah, no, I mean that's fantastic that you are investing in those things, because that's such it is the single technology that I really could not see. I didn't even think about it 10 years ago when I first started doing all this, that there would be anything that would fly, an electric flying machine, if you want to call it in the broadest sense. That is extraordinary.
Well, it's all thanks to the battery capacity.
Yeah.
With that going up, it makes these things possible. But it's still a challenge because it's still on the edge of not being quite enough. So battery, the weight versus energy output. But it's getting there now. And I know the Chinese one that you mentioned because they were an exhibitor at my Green Tech Festival in Berlin last year, because I founded one of the leading tech events now in Europe for the last 3 years, and it's called Green Tech Festival.
Right.
And it's in Berlin every year, and it's happening in 2.5 weeks again in Berlin. And so where we unite really all the leading change makers of the world and all the leading green technology of the world are all united in this event of ours. And the Chinese flying taxi was an exhibitor, so I've seen them.
Right. And I mean, that's very frustrating because we can't come to Germany at the moment, or yes, I don't think we can from here. But anyway, that's another matter, But that next year, definitely, I want to come and see that. That sounds amazing. And any excuse to go to Berlin is I always jump at. So Volocopter at the moment, then they're due to start running, but are they due to start testing or actual running commercial flights next year?
Yeah, it's commercial flights, not next year. It's 2023 at the moment.
2023, sorry. Yeah.
The first commercial flights, yeah.
And whereabouts are they going to be doing that?
It's not sure yet, but there's actually Paris at the moment is one of the leading cities. So Paris, of course, Dubai, Singapore, the usual suspects, but it's not 100% defined yet.
Right. That is amazing. That is so good. So, okay, tell me then, which has been your favorite electric car that you've driven out of all the ones you've driven? Because you've done.
Well, that's an easy one. It's the Rimac, because it just has the ballistic power, and it's just phenomenal. And I love the company as such as well, because it's so cool how Mate Rimac, he's this inventor, out of a garage in Croatia where there's no automobile infrastructure at all. There's nothing, not a supplier, there's nothing, zero. In the whole wide area, there's zero. And so he just comes out of his garage and creates this supercar company leading the world in battery performance, high performance batteries. And so it's just awesome. And he's making everything himself. He makes the whole, except for the actual cells, but the whole battery system, everything is self-made at home in his company, where there's almost 1,000 people working now. So that's really the most impressive that I've seen so far.
No, I mean, I can understand. Oh, I think you're right. I mean, because I've sat in one. In fact, at the launch of Formula E in London.
Okay.
Mate was there. That's where I met him. And he drove it across Westminster Bridge, the very first Rimac.
But that must have been the Rimac T1 then, right?
It was the very first one, a long time ago. Yeah, it would have been,
The one where Richard Hammond had a bit of an off with.
He slightly missed the road. Yes, apparently.
It was too much power for him to handle.
Yeah. I would be the same. I would never criticize anyone for making a mistake like that. I very much understand that. Yeah. But that is yes. We still haven't ever featured it. We've talked to him many times, Mate.
Oh, perfect.
So we will get there.
Wait, Robert. You can wait till I get mine, and then you can feature it.
That's a good idea. So when are you due? You're due to get yours this autumn.
Year.
Right. Fantastic. Yeah. Very exciting. Wow. Brilliant.
I mean, I think it's a moving target, but more or less.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we're all getting used to the fact that everything's been delayed a bit, but it does feel like stuff is happening again now. It does definitely feel different, doesn't it? Finally.
What's your vision for Fully Charged?
Well, for the last year, it's been to survive, to keep going, and we have done that. So I feel very proud of that. It is, to really, we're finding new people to present stuff. So there's 2 new people joining us very soon, who are young and full of energy. Because I'm basically a bit old and knackered, so I'm trying to do less, not more. But if we can get a team around the world, and that has really been galvanized in the last year, that we have people in South Korea, China, 2 in America, 1 in Australia, 1 in the Netherlands, a couple here. That real 3 here. That makes it's such a way of a different way of doing it. Because I used to fly with car companies. I'd fly with Nissan to Japan, or I'd fly with Hyundai to Korea. And you go, this is for one day. Go, this is not a sensible way of doing it. And I drive a car for a day and then fly back, and you go, that's crazy. And then all over Europe, I was constantly flying to. Tends to be Portugal. A lot of car companies like to launch their cars in Portugal. And so it would be great to have someone that's much closer to that stuff.
Yeah. I'm always wondering. Of course, that's my limitation as well, the capacity to travel. So I'm always wondering if I could do something similar, and if my followers would accept if occasionally someone else, some cool young kid from LA, California, did a video with something cool there, the latest like electric innovation or whatever, and we posted it on my channel with me doing a commentary or something in interactive, but from remotely. I wonder if my followers would accept that. It would be cool. I don't know. Maybe we'll try it.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think you're in a slightly different position in that you are such a high-profile figure that that's in a sense what people are watching. They're going, "Oh, what does he think of this?" And then if there's someone else go, "What is the other bloke who I've never heard of before?" This. Yeah. Whereas, I mean, I think that all I have is a long career of doing this on broadcast television in the UK. That's it. So, and in a sense, what's been really wonderful for me is to break out of that initial kind of that very UK focused thing, because as you all know, with the YouTube channel, it's international. I mean, I think it's about 26% of our regular viewers, are in the UK. So the majority are outside the UK, which is.
What's the second biggest group?
US, North America, US, is our second biggest. The fourth biggest. Wait a minute, US. Yes, no, third biggest is Germany. That is a real surprise.
For me, it's exactly the same. So I've got Germany, UK, US in the top there, and the fourth is actually Netherlands.
Right. Yes, I think Netherlands and Australia. I think we've got quite a big following in Australia, but it would be a toss-up between those 2. Yeah. That is amazing, isn't it? Yeah, because I mean, I'm amazed that we don't do. We should do. We're trying to do it subtitling particularly for Germany, because there's so many German viewers. But actually, whenever I've been to Germany, everyone speaks English slightly better than me.
Yeah.
It's a very natural ability to speak English. So, and the same with the Netherlands in particular, they all speak very good English. So, it's not really a big problem, because when you present, then you always present in English.
Always, always. Yeah. Although I have a German YouTube channel as well, where I present in German.
Right.
It's so time consuming to do both. So I don't really know what our strategy is eventually, but anyways.
Yeah, because I mean that is, it takes, as you know, it takes a lot of time, and I mean it's not necessarily the time you spend actually filming the thing. That isn't very much, but organising that and being sure that you're there on the right day when the car's there and you're there and you've got to get that stuff. That has worn me out. We've done that for so long, and it's the bit beforehand that takes the time, isn't it? The actual filming is great fun. I love doing that. But I mean, so my ambition really is to cover more things that aren't cars, because I just want, we've got this guy, the wonderful guy starting with us soon, who's really gets cars much more than I do and is really into it, and he's going to cover that more than me. But it's all those other things. I mean, we're still trying to get to the wind turbine blade manufacturing facility in the north of England, where they're making these wind turbine blades that just defy physics. They're so huge. On the latest offshore wind turbines are mind-boggling. 110-meter long blade.
What?
That's the biggest blades they're now installing in the North Sea. 110 meters. Each blade is that long. So where the neck, where they join the blade to the central turning bit, you can drive a London bus into that inside the blade. That's how big it is. They are massive industrial things. And those are 10 to 12 megawatt turbines. So the biggest wind turbines, and the actual box on the top of the tower.
That's a lot.
Where all the... It's huge, yeah. It's absolutely huge. When you think of the first wind turbines you and I would have seen that were maybe offshore, off the coast, would have been 500, 500 kilowatts, or a megawatt. They would have been 1 megawatt or maybe 2 megawatts. These are now 10 to 12. And I think GE are working on a 15 megawatt wind turbine. So really enormous. Yeah. So that stuff's really, and that I'd love to film the installation of those, the ships that go out to install those that lift themselves up on legs and things. But you have to commit for 2 weeks. They don't go out for a day. They go out for 2 weeks at a time. So,
you can just put a time-lapse GoPro on the top of it.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Nico, thank you so much for taking time today. And I mean, I will see you. I will be waiting nervously when you've got your Rimac at the side of the road. You can take me for not a spin, a gentle drive, as if.
No, spin is good. I'll take you for a spin. But anyways, to everybody who's listening, please remember to subscribe to the Fully Charged podcast, and remember to subscribe to the Fully Charged YouTube channel, right?
That is very, very kind of you. And also, don't forget to subscribe and check out Nico's channel, because it is very cool. Excellent stuff. Well, I really hope you enjoyed that. I thought it was amazing to talk to Nico. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to do things with him again when we're allowed to travel a little bit more easily. Would very much like to go to Monaco. There's actually quite a few cool things that we'd like to see that are in that area. Some cars, some non-cars, but one day we'll get there with the crew and we'll do some filming with him. But it was great to chat. Anyway, that's all. I mean, obviously, if you'd like to subscribe to the Fully Charged Plus podcast, that would be lovely. And tell your friends about it. And that's about it, really. As always, if you have been, thank you for listening.